Welcome to the Vue Context Menu component tutorial. With the Syncfusion Vue Context Menu, you can display a dynamic menu with a simple right-click or custom trigger, making your interface more intuitive and interactive. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to create a Vue application and add the Syncfusion Vue Context Menu component. I will also show you how to add items, icons, navigation links, animations, and how to customize and disable items. Before proceeding, make sure you have installed the latest versions of Vue and Node.js. I'll use Visual Studio Code as my editor and show the output in the Edge browser. To create a project in Vue, open Visual Studio Code and type the command npm create vite@latest. I set my app name as my Vue app. Next, choose Vue as the framework and JavaScript as the variant. A Vue project is created. I navigate to the newly created Vue app and install the required dependencies using the command npm install. Now, the application is configured with the default settings of a Vue project. To use the Syncfusion Vue Context Menu component, type the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Vue navigations --save to install the navigations package. To use Syncfusion components, I must register the trial license key. So I open the main.js file and import the register license method from the Syncfusion ej2 base package. Using this method, I can register the trial license key. The application is now configured to use Syncfusion components. For instructions on generating a trial key, refer to the link in this video's description. Let me open the app Vue file and remove the default code. Then I add the three major code blocks: script, template, and style. Inside the script block, import the context menu component from the Syncfusion Vue navigations package. Then within the template block, I add a division element with a class container. This element will act as the outer layer of the context menu. The context menu will be rendered using the ID of any division element. I will use this container as the target element. So let me add the ID attribute and set the value target. Next, set an appropriate title for this division and include the context menu component. I define the target property and assign this division element's ID to render the context menu component within this specific target element. The context menu will not be displayed on the browser right now, as there are no menu items in it. To visualize the context menu on a target element, I need to add appropriate menu items to it. I plan to display three options. So, inside the context menu, I add the items property and set a variable name menu items. Then, in the script block, define this menu items variable and assign an array of objects. Let me set appropriate values to display text in the menu items. Next, I need to add the CSS reference for context menu component. So, inside the style tag, I import the material theme CSS reference. Additionally, to align the element, I add the container class and set padding, text align, border, margin, and width. Now let me save the changes and run the application using the command npm run dev. When I right-click on the target element, the context menu renders with the defined items. Next, let's see how to add icons to the context menu items to provide visual representation of an action. To do so, I include the icon CSS property in the first item and set the built-in class names, the icons cut. Likewise, I set the class names for the other two items as copy and paste. These predefined classes apply icons to the menu items within the context menu. In the style block, I assign the appropriate content value to access the icons for the items cut, copy, and paste. To learn more about the custom classes and icons, check out the link in this video's description. As you can see, the context menu items now display icons. Next, I will show you how to set multi-level nesting in the context menu. You can add any number of child items to each item in the context menu. I want to add sub-options to the paste option. So I include the items property inside the paste item. Then I add the child items, keep source formatting, and paste as plain text. When I hover over the paste item in the context menu now, its child items are displayed. Suppose you want to display the nested items with a click instead of a hover action. Then the show item on click property can be used. To demonstrate, I include the show item on click property and set it to true. See now, when I click on the paste item, it shows the child items. Next, I'll show how to navigate to another web page when an action item is clicked. To do that, I add a new item called Navigate and set the Syncfusion Vue documentation link to the URL property. When I click the Navigate item, I am navigated to the documentation page. By default, the context menu shows the slide down effect. To change this animation, you can use the animation settings property. The supported effects for the context menu are slide down, zoom in, fade in, and none. In the context menu component, I set the animation settings property with a variable name. Then, inside the script block, define the animation variable. Within it, set the effect to fade in and the duration to 800. By default, the duration is 400. Now, when I right-click on the container, the context menu is rendered with fade in effect. Next, I will show you how to modify the menu options using the before item render event. For clarity, I retain first 3 items and remove the rest. I add the before item render event and assign the event handler item render. Then, inside the script block, define the event handler method that receives an argument rs. I want to set a custom style to each item. So, in this method, I add the class called custom to each list item. Within the style tag, I define the custom class with the styles float, font size, and font style. Now the items are modified in the context menu. Lastly, I will show you how to disable specific menu items in the context menu using the enable items method. To do so, I will be using the before open event. Inside the context menu component, let me add the before open event and set an event handler name. Inside the script block, define this event handler method. Within this method, I create a variable context menu. Then, I retrieve the ej2 instance by passing the index 0. Using this variable, I invoke the enable items function and set the paste item to false to disable the item. See now, the paste item is disabled in the context menu component. Let me sum up this video. You have learned how to create a Vue application and add the context menu component to it. You also saw how to use a few of its basic features. If you would like to try out the example used in this video, you can download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also provided a link to check if you qualify for a free license key to use our Vue components through our community license. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.